today I'm really glad to share my presentation, which is about how I try to integrate the approach of Clio into my elective courses. And as you can see, my title is I use English to travel around the sea, but here the sea is not the sea, but the sea of rich cultures. In other words, there will be the region of Southeast Asia. Alright, so why do I have this kind of course in our school? Here I'd like to elaborate the school background a little bit. Because in our school, we have our students to take two sets of required courses. One is research methodology, the other is the second foreign languages. In other words, they have to pick up one second foreign language in their freshman year. They can pick up like French, German, Spanish, and also Japanese. In our school, we also try to incorporate Vietnamese and also Indonesia in our school. So for our students, each of them has to take one second foreign language, and also they will take the course of research methodology. So in other words, our school values the spirits of cross-cultural communication and also problem-solving skills. So based on this kind of school background, I decided to set up this elective course for my students. The reason why I put the elective course in the second year is because in their first year, they have learned the history of Taiwan already. So they have some better understanding of the colonial history and also decolonization in the cases of Taiwan. But here I try to put this kind of concept in a new region. In other words, they are all going to learn the process of colonization or decolonization in Southeast Asia. But basically the big concepts are the same, but just different cases and different examples. So in other words, they will have better understanding about this one. And so when you teach this kind of history again in English, they will have some better understanding of this one. And also in this course, as I mentioned, I try to incorporate history and also English learning together as well. And then in the end of the semester, they have to do a project. And the project course is also a time for them to review their research skills, which is also their required course in their freshman years. So overall, this course is not something new, but a time for them to revisit what they learned as a freshman. And in the second year, they can know this kind of content again, but in a new cases. So to elaborate this course, I try to pick out some key concepts from our English curriculum guidelines. So in terms of essential concepts, I pick up perspectives and planning and cultural literacy and also global issues. So based on these essential concepts, I try to develop 3 sets of inquiry questions in the course. The first one is, what are the factors that contribute to the development of Southeast Asia? And the second one is, how can we form a historical argument? So this part will be something about English learning. I try to teach them how to write an argumentative writing in English. And the last one, how can we solve an information problem? And this one will be something about the research skills, which they also already learned in their freshman year. But they try to revisit this process in English. So basically, in terms of the knowledge and content, they already had this kind of scaffolding as a freshman, but they try to review this one or review this process in English again as a sophomore. And in terms of the learning performances, in this course, I try to highlight the content in terms of listening, and they have to know how to introduce and describe. And also, in terms of reading, I highlight the viewpoints. Because honestly speaking, I'm not a very professional history teacher. So while we are teaching history, our main focus is not about, I want to teach you the knowledge or content or information of history, but our highlight will be the critical thinking skills. So in my course, I try to help them read different kind of archives or letters or journals from those historical figures. And my focus will be they have to analyze and read those journals and try to find out what perspective they have behind those texts. And in terms of writing, at least they can express their ideas, and in the end they have to plan a project to be their final learning products. Right? So what might be the teaching idea that I would like to share here is that even though when you hear Clio, probably you'll be, oh, Clio is something really difficult, I don't have that kind of knowledge in other fields. But as a language teacher, probably we can try to adopt the approach of soft Clio. In other words, what we really value is the language learning in our classroom, but we use different kind of contents or information to help them and to guide them to experiment the learning skills they have their English courses. And in the end, I try to incorporate project for them to show their learning process. Then, here will be the teaching materials that I would like to share. So later I'm going to share with you a history textbook I bought from Singapore while I guided my student to have some presentation over there. And also, in this course, what I really value is the critical thinking skills. And then, we have this kind of big 6 skills in the end. Right, so this is the textbook I bought from Singapore. And when I flipped through this set of textbooks, I was really shocked at the very first. But I speaking before this, I never opened this book before. Until, alright, so I finally realized all these students kind of accidentally, they are all from the second foreign language courses or Indonesia and Vietnam. Then I think, oh, if I want to have certain English project, I should help them to make the connection between the second foreign language learning and what their research would like to do in this course. So I suddenly realized, oh yeah, I bought a book in Singapore. And it's about the textbook of Southeast Asia. And while I read this textbook, this is the textbook they use for grade 9 in junior high school. But in terms of this kind of language proficiency, probably they'll be very difficult for our students. So what I did to get some, therefore this textbook is that I try to pick out some crucial issues and try to make simplified the text they use and try to incorporate the process how they teach English and teach history at the same time. And the most impressive part about this one is that when they are teaching history, actually they are teaching English. The content of history is not that important, but English skills. Because after each set of a kind of topic or issue, they will go with a kind of English skills in the set. For example, after they read this kind of data or archives in English, they have to make their own argument. And then next time, they teach them how to take notes of the text they read. And in the end of semester, they will develop a research paper. So that's how they try to develop their history teaching and make it integrated with English learning at the same time. So I get this kind of spirits, all of that. And then also, I try to develop a course based on these books, which is about inquiry questions and then also concept-based curriculum. So there will be 2 books that probably if you want to develop something similar, you can check these books for your reference. And as you know, Taichung is the 2nd largest city of those new immigrants. So basically, in their daily life, they will encounter people from Southeast Asia very often. So our place, our neighborhood, actually just like a real environment for them to get contact with them. But in the past, we didn't have this kind of chance to know them better, but just based on certain kind of news or media or online news. So based on the content and language that I would like to guide my students in terms of content approach, I focus on these 4 inquiry questions. One is, why did Europe colonize Southeast Asia? And how did Southeast Asia respond to colonization? And what is the impact of colonial rule on Southeast Asia? And the last one, what led to the decolonization of Southeast Asia? So this part will be the focus of history learning. And on the other side, there will be the focus of language learning. So this one will be, what are the elements of historical argument? So basically, they will have assertion, reasoning, and evidence. And then, what is the structural argumentative writing? And how to present our research findings. So this is about like argumentative writing, and in the end, how to convey their various perspectives to show their critical thinking skills. So basically, the teaching procedure of this course, I start from the history of Southeast Asia, and then we talk about argumentative writing in English, and then I try to get them to finish the task, the project in the end. So as I mentioned, what they do in this language course or history course is not about they have to get a lot of information from history. For example, they will read 2 letters to see whether this person agreed the colonization in Vietnam or against the colonization in Vietnam. So basically, they are reading English, but their focus will be they have to find out the perspective attitudes of those colonists or the local people, their responses to colonization, right? And for example, they'll do a research question like whether the French colonize Southeast Asia, that's because for glory, for God, or for money, yeah, or just for people over there. So the process like this, when we talk about colonization, and while I'm talking about colonization, I teach them how to write an argument, and then we talk about independence, and we talk about how to write an essay. And after these two hard content or learning, we move on to guide them to walk around the neighborhood and to experience the Southeast Asia cultures here in Taiwan. And then they will start a project. In the end, they will do their projects. So because each year, this is the very third year I offer this kind of course in our school. Each year, students will have different kind of language levels. So in the very first year, interestingly, they are really high flyers in English. So in the end, they produce their essays in English, which try to argue some kind of issues in Southeast Asia. And for 1 year, they even have this kind of program in English and try to broadcast their music or like the kind of issues or topics in English and make it kind of programs online. But for the last year, practice proficiency is not that high. So in the end, they just make a simple poster presentation with soapstone analysis in the end. So in terms of this course, I value like differential instruction, even though they go through the same content, but the product probably will be not the same. And also I try to use kind of different kind of assessment to judge their performance in this school. And most importantly, I try to incorporate their real life experiences because Southeast Asia culture is just around our school, and through this kind of course, I give them a chance to revisit what they learn in school and also get close to the environment outside our school. Right. So in the end, this is the test I have for my students. Do you know where those countries are and what will be the names of those countries? No idea, right? And hopefully in the end of this course, they will know what these countries are, right? Okay, thank you.